Hello everyone, I'm Alex Savage from KTVU Channel 2. Welcome here to a forum of candidates running for 2 seats on the Antioch Unified School District Board. Today's forum is sponsored by the Contra Costa Elections Division, Contra Costa Television, the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County. We are recording this roundtable here in the studio of Contra Costa Television. And the candidates kind enough to join us today are Shagufa Khan, Jim Davis, Mary Rocha, Clyde H. Lewis, Jr., Ellie Householder, Janice Lipinski. Clyde, to you, what is the role of the school board in your mind, and how will you seek to serve that cause?
Thank you so much for the question, Alex. First of all, I'd like to thank all the sponsors for having us here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I think one of the primary roles is to uphold the direction of the district. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas and approaches to how to resolve issues in the community. And sort of the school board is tasked with partnering with or developing policies that would guide the district in the right direction. Now, what I bring to the table, I have roughly 2 decades of experience, both domestically and internationally, developing programs geared towards education. My doctorate in education focuses on developing these relationships. Now, a secondary role, and I think this is something that has been overlooked recently, to be quite honest, is developing sound relationships in the community. I think the school district is the only institution by law that everybody has to engage with, and as a result, they should be leading the charge in developing relationships with outside entities.
Okay. How about you? What steps do you think should be taken from the standpoint of the board to ensure that students are safe?
Thank you for the question. So there's a number of different steps that I can take, that we could take. Currently, I serve as the Director of Workforce Development in Oakland, California. And what we do is we develop programming and employment opportunities for people returning home from prison. So this is a conversation that we have quite a bit, actually. You know, what were some of the things that could have supported you, or things like that? I think that one of the things is opportunity, right? So that's outside of the classroom. In the classroom, obviously, mandatory reporting is key. Developing relationships within the community, as I mentioned earlier, with law enforcement. Now, not law enforcement coming to campus to sort of punish, but to develop relationships to say, okay, well, this is a person that I can see, I can trust. This is somebody that I can believe in, potentially become a police officer. So developing those relationships is key. And also, as I mentioned earlier as well, developing or inspiring this idea of hope, because sometimes the challenge with students is not feeling like they have a hope, and they lash out. So
Okay.
they may lash out.
You look at the school district's budget. You think the money is being spent in the right ways, and what shifts would you make in terms of spending?
Well, so the right way is about priority, sort of as Jim alluded to. And I think there's opportunities there, right? So as we mentioned, there's sort of a big exodus from the school district, and that's for a number of different reasons, safety being one of those. But in terms of solutions, myself, I've led the sort of securing of about $4 million in the last 3 years of additional grant funding, developing programs targeted towards specific populations, and programming, kind of what was alluded to earlier in terms of counselors and different programming like that. I've done that on both domestically and internationally, and I think that that's something that's key. Now, what does that look like? If we develop relationships in the community and we create pipelines from the high school out to the public, now that brings some of the tax revenue that's leaving Antioch back to the city. Mm-hmm. In addition to some of the funding that we can secure, because there's a number of different grants and opportunities out there for school districts specifically to address these budget shortfalls.
Start with you, Clyde.
Okay. I currently have, thank you, Alex, first of all.
Yeah, sure. Anytime.
I currently have 2 children in elementary here in the district. So there's a number of different challenges. You have, as was alluded to earlier, you have the safety issue. I work directly with the principal of my children's elementary school to develop programming to sort of address some of that safety. And this is an elementary school. We're starting to see these things. So I, as a parent, if I'm concerned about the safety of my children in elementary school, that can be a challenge. So developing these relationships, first of all, between the teachers and the parents, and because the parents, to be quite honest, in this conversation are often left out. We talk about the school district, we talk about the board, we talk about children, but oftentimes we don't talk about the parents. Developing relationships, understanding what the parents want, and developing programs to support all the entities there can be key, because one of the biggest challenges is we'll teach some amazing things in school, but then once that kid steps outside of the school, if those values and things aren't supported, it can be a challenge.
Okay. On the issue of improving your academic success, well, let me ask it this way: do you think that the schools in Antioch Unified are attracting the best and brightest teachers?
Well, that's a challenging question. So the best and the brightest, right? That's a challenge. Because oftentimes when we think about academics, we think about it as sort of it's operating in sort of a vacuum or a silo. There are other things going on. There's a famous line saying that, you know, it's hard to focus on algebra when I have stomach pains. If I'm hungry, I don't know that I can focus, right? So this is why it's important for us to understand the totality of the student. You can put a phenomenal teacher in there, but if they're spending time focused on things outside of the classroom, it can become a challenge, and then it negatively impacts the rest of the class, right? So specifically, I'll give you an example. The school where my children attend, 70% are on free and reduced lunch, right? So in looking at or disaggregating the data when looking at free and reduced lunch, there are a number of different barriers that present before a student even walks on campus. So understanding what the needs of the families are in the community and developing those relationships will actually have a positive benefit to the students in the classroom, that student specific, and also the community at large.
Okay. Is handling this issue properly, Clyde?
By separating themselves from the NAACP, I don't know that that's the best move, because this isn't sort of an African American issue. This isn't a Black or Latino issue. This is a community issue. If we're representing any percentage of the population in the community, it becomes an issue for the entire community. Because let's look at an example. This kid is suspended. They go home, and as was alluded to earlier, most times the parent is working outside of the city, right? So that student is then going home unsupervised, and if they are getting in trouble, there's a number of different things that could happen there. But also, that student's learning stops. Right, so we're punishing that kid on a number of different levels and disallowing that student to fully engage in academics. Now, how do we resolve it? We develop relationships in the community that can support that student and other students through.
Okay, I appreciate it. Junior.
Okay, so thank you, Alex, and the rest of the team and the sponsors for having us. I grew up in Oakland, California, the impoverished Oakland, California. I'm the first, not only in my household, but in my community to go to college. And when I got there, after being really successful in high school and standing out as an academic elite, receiving a number of different academic and athletic scholarships, I found myself after the first year on academic probation. That is a travesty. I had convinced myself that I was smart, but it was something called inner city smart. And when I got to college, it was confirmed. The school district, I'm a product of public education from K-12, undergrad, master's, and doctorate. My K-12 education, although I thought it had prepared me for higher education, there were some key fundamentals that were lacking. And when I got to class, it wasn't that other students were smarter than me, it's just that they had been better prepared. And in that preparation, I was sort of behind the 8 ball. So then we look at why I'm running for school board. There's three specific reasons. Obviously, education, that's number one. Because if we're not preparing our youth, not everybody's going to go to college, first of all. And we need to understand what that path looks like for them as well. Oftentimes we talk about college, we talk about success as being academically prepared for the next level, but what about those students who want to become an auto mechanic or a plumber? We need to be preparing those students as well. Second is safety, because safety, those kids that are feeling unsafe go out into the community after a while, after they graduate high school. So we need to develop a culture of safety within Antioch. Thirdly, community. Once those students are out in the community and once those relationships are established, it's important that we maintain those relationships so there are opportunities here. Roughly 70 or 80% of the parents who live in Antioch work outside of the city. And if I'm a high school student and I'm getting out of high school at, right around 3 o'clock, so between 3 and 7 o'clock, I'm free to roam on my own. And that roaming I've been 14 before. I don't know that I'm making the right decisions at 14 unsupervised. So it's important that we develop very sound relationships within the community that allow pathways not only for those students that are going to college, but also those students that want to go into the trades and vocations as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you want more information on all of the candidates, you can visit the website votersedge.org. And to view this broadcast online, you can go to cocovote.us. I'm Alex Savage from KTVU, Channel 2. Don't forget to vote, please, by all means, on November 6th. And remember, the deadline to register to vote is October 22nd. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.